Synergy Golden Pineapple.
Yeah, and I got Hum Coconut Lime.
So I like the bottle. That's why I got that one. Yeah. All right. I thought, you know what's funny? I thought you would like that one.
Yeah.
That's why I got it. Golden apple.
Tastes like a pina colada without alcohol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like this.
Mommy happy hour.
Yeah, something new.
This is
good. I've done the GT, but not the golden apple, and you have this. I've never heard of that brand before.
Coconut lime. I'm not reaching. Hum.
That's when they were trying to think of a name, and they got confused, and they're just like, let's just name it Hum. A relentless life is the only life worth living. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Relentless Life. I'm your host, Relentless Jake, and we are with the amazing Nina, who is also known as Ninja Nina. And if anybody who has watched my channel for a little bit understands who Ninja Nina is, she was on a few of the videos where she did some cooking things. We might talk about that. First of all, I want to say thank you for letting me come to your beautiful cabin in this really awesome overhang where we have some rain. Maybe they can hear it, maybe they can't. I don't know.
I know. Welcome. Thank you. I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. We've got kombucha going. And I have to say, this even with the rain, this is probably the quietest it's been. How do you deal with the energy that's here? And that's a good thing because you have a lot of kids. You homeschool. Let's kind of go into that a little bit about your busy life.
Oh yes. Well, I'm a military spouse. 3 kids, 7, 5, and just turned 4. We have been part of the Relentless Life for about the past 3 years. My baby's almost all her entire life, so she knows Jake.
Yeah.
And I started homeschooling this year, not because of COVID, but because of COVID, I'm actually homeschooling 2 of them. And they keep me very busy. Very busy.
I knew that for 5 minutes I walked in, and they're awesome kids. They'll grab your attention immediately, and then they'll hang on to it, which is good. I need to learn their trick because I can't keep anybody's attention.
Oh yeah, they had you captive for 20 minutes it felt like.
Yeah.
Talking about dinosaurs and games and wildcrats and lizards. And
yeah. all my favorite things. I loved dinosaurs even when I was a kid, so that's where we hit it off right away.
Exactly. Instant friends. Best friends.
Without question.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned on the homeschooling thing, it wasn't because of COVID, but COVID certainly helped push that process.
Right.
So what was that like, coming from not homeschooling into going into homeschooling?
Well, it was kind of not really much of a challenge for me in the sense that because my kids were in kindergarten, pre-K 4, and pre-K or 2-year-old school. So they were only going to school part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And transitioning them to being home at first because of the COVID shutdown was a little bit hard in the sense of I have no idea what I'm teaching them because I haven't been on a schedule or routine with what the teachers had for them. And so it was kind of on the fly teaching and learning and trying to figure things out with them. But having them home was actually easier, I guess. It got a little crazy at the beginning. And then this year, we had decided to keep my son for first grade homeschooled because we didn't want to put him into the public school system for the whole being fed all the government nonsense and all of that, and putting him in a private school so that it was too expensive, and thought homeschool is the best way to go. Then because of COVID, we kept our kindergartner home as well, and we just sent the preschooler off for school part-time just to get her out of the house so I could kind of focus on actual teaching. And at the beginning of the year, I had all these amazing plans on how I would homeschool. I had different programs and curriculums all put together, and it was a flop. It was just too much. I was trying to take on too much at one time, and I finally discovered this one program that worked great for me. And it was just it's called Gathered Round. I'm not, promoting or being paid to do this, but I absolutely love this program because it just focused on one unit at a time. It takes about 4 or 5 weeks per unit. We just finished a space unit, and I just teach all of them the same material, and then we break off into their own age of what work they need to work on. And it's so easy, and we just have a blast. They spend more time playing than they actually, we spend maybe like 2 or 3 hours tops, actual studying and doing work, and then they just play, and they're just off in their own worlds learning.
That's an interesting, I like that point, because it goes to show you that there's effective time, and then there's time that I think is just drawn out because that's what the public school wanted. And I do feel like more people are going to start to pull back and start to homeschool. Do you find that like the learning portion of it is like more effective, or at least the same, or is it just more? Are there more challenges doing it this way?
Well, it's a challenge because I have you have my 4-year-old is always trying to get the attention of everybody.
Yeah.
And just taking over the classroom time. So that for me is a challenge, but the learning itself is more effective because you're one-on-one with your kid, and they say that at that age 20 minutes is their attention span. Once you go past the 20 minutes, it's just wasted time.
It's pretty much my attention span, I think, too. So it makes a lot of sense. So what was that program again? I know you said you didn't want to promote it, but I want them to know what you're using because I have a question kind of to follow up with that.
Okay. It's called Gather Round.
Gather Round.
Yeah.
So what is this like, for those of us that don't know anything about homeschooling, I know my sister does it, and I don't know if she uses a program or she has her own. But is this something that kind of gives you steps on how to do it? If you were kind of a tool bag like me, it wouldn't matter. There's still a possibility that someone who's an orangutan can still kind of pull it off.
Oh, yeah. It's very easy. It's very self-explanatory because it's all planned out for you. There's a teacher's guide, and in it just gives you all the material to read. It tells you, breaks off each age group because it starts from like 3 to 5-year-olds all the way up to high school. So you use the same material for them, and they're for teaching wise, but their work is going to be more intensive as they get older.
Oh, and they just follow the steps within this program that you've subscribed to. Wow, that's actually, so I had no idea those existed, but that does make it a lot easier. So they're being taught like a curriculum, but it's going within like the guise of this type of program.
Yep. So like I can use this same, like the space unit, for instance. I can use that same program, unit study, next year and just bump my kids up to their next level. So then we'll get to dive deeper into learning about space and learning more about Mars and Venus and the whole solar system. And it'll just get deeper, and they'll have to learn more about how to write more paragraphs as opposed to just like a sentence or two, and challenge their thinking and critical thinking and things like that, and just works their way up.
So one of the things that I really like about the homeschooling side is that it's not all classroom setting.
Nope.
And so when I was originally, when I was on Instagram before, one of the few people I followed was you, and it was because of some of the things you did with your kids with the homeschooling that I always found really entertaining. Like if I were a kid, I would have enjoyed that part of school rather than just lunch and recess, which were my 2 favorite subjects. Still are, even to this day.
Yeah, we have more flexibility because if there's something like we find interesting, we can go and just look it up and decide, okay, we want to study about volcanoes. What happens with a volcano? Okay, well, let's make our own, and let's have an example of how to make a volcano, and just go out in the backyard and do it. And some days we just don't want to learn, and we're just having an off day, and we're like, you know what, that's fine. We'll just not do anything today, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay, because I feel like the kids learn just as much playing than as they do in a classroom setting.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. And not only that, it's the brain is a muscle too. So when you're at that point where it's like you might reach burnout mode, just like with muscles, there's a good time to just rest, as opposed to it's a stringent Monday through Friday, no exceptions.
Yep.
And you're gonna show up on time.
I mean, I'm a little strict. I'm like, okay, it's 8:30. We're supposed to be starting. Where are you guys? And I'm like trying to gather them, but
you have to be right when you're trying to corral everybody and get them into
exactly.
So what's that like? Because they are they're close in age, but they are at different levels. Are there challenges with that, or does the program that you're in, does that help kind of guide you through that too?
It's still a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge when you have that younger child in the mix, especially since being in that toddler. Well, she's not a toddler anymore. She just turned 4.
Time's flying.
She's a big kid. But it's a process in trying to figure out what's going to work best for you, because every family is different. And having the older kids, my son is able to do his work on his own independently, and he can actually help me with the middle child, and while I'm dealing with my 4-year-old, which is nice, because then it also teaches him responsibility in the process of helping and teaching her stuff while I'm busy with the baby.
Well, and you learn more teaching, don't you?
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of times when you have to put yourself in that position of authority, you can be blindsided by anything, so you have to actually know your information better than if you were just a student.
Yeah, I'm actually learning more by teaching my kids than what I learned back in school. And I mean, I'm almost 41 and I don't remember jack about.
Well, don't ask me to take that 5th grader test, because I know I'm not going to pass that. But kind of like, again, on your freedom, one of the thoughts I had was, and my sister does this, and I'm curious, I think you probably do it to some degree too, just based on what I saw from the Instagram post, but instead of just reading about it, you're actually doing things, and you can probably even say, oh, well, here's a volcano, let's go there, and now you can see it. It's like you can do like field trips on a whim.
Yep, we actually can. And it was really cool because we were learning about Florida, since both of the older 2 kids were born in Florida, and so was Mommy. So we had learned all about St. Augustine and the fort that was there and the lighthouse. And so just recently, we finally got to take the kids there, and it was bringing to life what we had learned back earlier in the year. And they were just so excited, like making that connection of the lighthouse and the fort and everything else around St. Augustine. It was really cool, and it's kind of fun. And even like yesterday, it was the landing on Mars, the rover, I think it was Perseverance or something. Don't quote me, but
was it the anniversary, or
no? That it was landing.
It actually did land yesterday.
Yesterday, and we got to watch it, and it was like making the connection of the things that we had learned about Mars while watching it. It's kind of cool. I'm
gonna have to contact them, because I think part of my brain is in Mars. My teachers used to tell me that, so I didn't even know. So it's weird. I thought, didn't we have something in Mars already, or?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you taught me something too. Maybe I should sit through your homeschooling classes, and I can probably
like, here you go, learn about this.
Update my 1st through 5th grade knowledge, which is probably sparse at this. I feel like I forget things every day while everyone else is like.
Believe me, I have mom brain to the max, so I forget even my own name sometimes.
Well, see, I don't have an excuse. See, you have 3 kids, and you're teaching them, like, you're in homeschooling and the energies. So how do you stay? I know how long you followed me, and I've seen videos, and you're always posting fitness videos. And if you follow her on Instagram, you will see these. And we're not talking about like easy things that you're doing. It's heavyweight or it's extreme things. Tell us about that. Like, what is that like as far as time frame, first of all?
Time frame?
Yeah.
Like the amount of time it took me to get to this level, or what I do like in the mornings?
Well, shorter term. So the time frame of your day, of all the things you're doing as a mom,
okay,
and as a wife, and cooking, and all these other jobs that you put on your shoulders, and then staying in shape the way you have. And how do you do that from morning to night and still have time to sleep and exist as a normal human being? Where people are always saying time, like, I don't have enough time. And then I look at somebody like you who has all these kids and you're making time somehow. So please talk about that.
Well, I wake up at 5:30 usually. I set my alarm for 5 and I'm just hitting snooze until 5:30. I've been really bad about that. But
that's, by the way, everyone, that's 5:30 a.m., not p.m.
Yes.
For those of you who are like, I sleep till 12.
Yeah.
That's why you don't have time.
Right. It's 5:30 a.m. and I instantly roll out of bed, throw on my workout clothes. I have a protein shake in the fridge already made the night before. I grab that, I start drinking it, and start pulling up my workout.
Mm-hmm.
And by then, I'm ready to go. Within the hour, I work out, and then I'm going downstairs to have breakfast and start dealing with my kids. Eventually, at some point, I'll take a shower,
Yeah.
or I just fake it for
So,
until
like,
noon.
you're already doing more things in the first
Yeah.
couple hours of your day than most people do probably all week.
Yeah.
So that's already the start.
The start.
And so are you working out more than once? Because I know you're on the videos a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I see you in the comment section, but then you're also, and I could be wrong because I'm not on Instagram anymore, but I used to see you also post other things, which was more like hypertrophy stuff.
Yeah, I was doing training on like more heavy lifting. You had actually gotten me into my base of weightlifting because I used to be a very cardio junkie, more lightweight, and then you had trained me for my very first Savage race back in, what was it, like 2019 or something like that. And that's what really got me started on weight training to get me strong enough for that race. And from there, I just like took off and was like, all right, I'm going to keep going. I want to work on deadlifts and see what I can do from there. And
now you kill it. You're on another level of animal in a good way. Those people who don't know what a Savage race is, could you like explain to them? Because you've done numerous Savage races at this point.
Well, I've only done one. I've been training to try to get to another one.
I thought you did more than one.
Yeah, I signed up to do one, and like it was November, I think, of that same year, and something happened with my kids. They got sick, so I pushed it to the March 2020, and COVID got that one pushed back to November. And then this past November, I just was like mentally done, like stressed. I was like, I can't do it. So I ended up not doing it, just canceling. And so I've been like training, but never actually going to another one.
I see.
But the race itself is just one of those obstacle course races, like the Spartan, Tough Mudder, all of those. And it's a lot of like monkey bars, and you use a lot of upper body in it, and a lot of mental toughness too.
Sure. Yeah.
I think because I look at it and it's just like a big giant playground for adults. So just take the mini size playground for the kids and just supersize it.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's really all it is, because you've got, you're climbing up ropes and you're climbing over fences and carrying heavy stuff and going across monkey bars that kind of go up and down and
upside down.
I don't know, like you're swinging from stuff, and it was fun. I like the first time I did it, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like I was scared because I was not an athlete at all. I've never done any of that in my life. When it comes to sports, I'm awful, and I was just like, I don't think I can do this.
But there I don't know. There's different types of sports. So you're certainly athletic, and sports have kind of developed into some of this athletic state or fitness style, and that's what this is agility and fitness. You're certainly an athlete.
Yay.
I mean, it's true though.
But I think it's because it was more of me against myself.
Yeah.
And that's always been more of my style of like quote unquote sport type thing, because I the only thing I was ever really good at was running. So I ran track in high school, and I always loved to run. So I was very much of a cardio junkie up until I started training with you. And that I was always really good at beating myself. Like I've beat my 18-year-old self many times in my late 30s and even now.
I believe that.
My 40s.
I definitely believe that. And you know what? People in their 20s are trying to get to some of the fitness levels that you are. That's one of those things where everyone, I think people would probably say it's cliche these days, but age is certainly relative to how you've lived life and made choices to keep yourself in better shape. And certainly you've been able to like really stretch those years further. I mean, and that's not a way of saying you're old at all, because you're not. I'm older than you. But your fitness levels, my point is, if you're in your 20s, she's certainly someone to reach for.
Well, it takes dedication, basically. I mean, that's all it is. It's anything you want in life, just push at it. Be dedicated in it. So
what would you tell somebody who says they don't have time? Because you kind of went through your day, and what's your answer to somebody like that where it's like, you don't understand, I just don't have time?
Well, I would say first look at your schedule.
Yeah.
Like, what time are you waking up? What time are you going to bed? How much time are you spending on TV or on the phone, laptop? Are you making time? Because if you have time to sit around for an hour or two doing nothing, then you have time to fit in 20 minutes of a workout, or wake up a little bit earlier. Just set your alarm a little bit earlier. Put out, your workout clothes, your gym bag, anything that's going to be right there for no excuses. Set up the night before. It's a lot of it for me is prep work. Yeah, I'm a big prepper. Like prepping ahead.
You mentioned that too. By the day before, you already prepared your protein shake so that when you wake up, it's already readily available to you, so you're not skipping that part of your nutrition.
Right.
That's extremely important, because I think most people just kind of wake up and say, I think we get a workout in today. And then they, something comes up, and you don't really have it within your schedule, so it's kind of an afterthought.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, when are you most awake or more mentally able to fit in a workout? Because for me, it's the morning. I have to do it in the morning, because by nighttime, I'm dead. There's no way. Sometimes I'll fit in what I like to call my mommy happy hour, which is like in the afternoons where I'm like, I'm drained, I'm stressed, I just need to zone out, and I'll do another workout. But it's usually like 20, 30 minutes.
Wait, stop. So her mommy happy hour is basically working out.
Yep.
That's not what most people would say their happy hour is.
Yep.
So that's it. When people look at Nina and they see how great of shape she's in, and you don't mind if I give them your Instagram?
No.
Okay. What is your Instagram?
It's Castile 2013.
Castile 2013. You can follow her on Instagram, and you can certainly see like her fitness posts. That's why she looks the way she looks, because she's probably sharing a piece of her happy hour, and that's a good sign of like why she's as fit as she is.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. One of the things that I was kind of like you pulled me back when you were talking about, not pull me back, but I started thinking about like some of your dedication to like planning. Are these things you have to write out all the time, or is it just systematically where you've developed this habit of like knowing what needs to be done and you just can't skip it?
More of it has been just ingrained in me because I've done it so often that it's now a habit. But before that, I used to have to like plan out my days, especially with like each child coming in. I'd have to be like, okay, I got to rewire and reschedule everything to fit in now this new child in my life and everything else that's going on. But
like, what do you mean everything else that's going on?
Just life in general, like being a wife and dealing with the kids. Because like with each stage, especially like when you have a newborn, your sleep is like non-existent. And
I'm told. I had a pet tarantula once. Is that kind of the same thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Does it cry in the middle of the night? Do you have to feed it?
No, I mean, I feed crickets, and, its way of temper tantrum would be like kick hairs or something.
Nice.
Not quite as close as like raising a child.
Maybe. Sure. At least it stays in a cage. That would be maybe more like newborn stage because it just stays in one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the cage part I like, but then
Yeah.
they break out of the cage and then it becomes more of a challenge.
Yeah. Then you have a 2-year-old that runs around and climbing on everything. And
Yeah.
they're hard to catch.
So that's interesting too. Like even as in shape as you're in, basically because of how much you fit in the day, you said you were exhausted at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine how exhausted I would be. So you're getting a cardio workout just with, like, people talk about that. I've heard moms say that. I've heard dads say that. I guess I get it because within 10 minutes, I'm like, wow, I'm tired. I pride myself on being like shape. I've done a lot of endurance things, but it's a different type of endurance.
It is.
You agree with that?
Yeah.
Could you explain to me what the difference between that is and somebody who can like run hundreds of miles without really being that exhausted?
It's mentally exhaustion more than anything. Obviously, you got bombarded by my kids walking in the door, and they talked your ears off like nonstop, and that's like part of it because you're trying to focus on 3 different little human beings that need your attention, and you're just like your brain's going every direction, and you're like, I don't know who to focus on right now, and okay, you be quiet, you talk. Okay, now your turn. No, your turn. That right there is exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's not even like more, I'm not really physically exhausted. It's just mentally. And now that they're older, it's not as much of a challenge because I'm not chasing kids because that was exhausting when they were, 3 and 2 and newborn. It was like really hard to keep up with them because they were getting into everything and you're having to keep them from, hurting themselves and getting into things that they weren't supposed to. But now that they're older, it's more of like they need your attention and your time, and that gets very mentally draining. Yeah,
I admire it because I'm gonna say this is the worst thing I'm gonna say all day, and then I'll let you do the majority of the talking. But sometimes when I'm on a plane, I have to admit when I hear the crying baby, and it's just only in that small moment, I'm like, I want to just take that head and squish it in a pillow. And I don't even have to live with that. Right? I know that's bad. That's horrible. I love kids, but I admire how like the mothers can go through that time and again. Fathers too, but I usually see it in the mother's hands and they're dealing with it. And I can't imagine on a plane where you're probably annoying most people, and you have to live with it.
Yep. Actually, it's funny that you say a baby. I find now that they're older and they're louder. I miss the baby cry because they're not as loud.
But they're at least saying things that like more than just like a aimless noise.
Right, that's true.
It's sort of like Jim Carrey and like the most annoying sound on Dumb and Dumber.
Right.
You ever see that?
He did a long time ago.
You want to hear the most annoying sound, and he just went.
Yes.
He screamed for like 30. That was like ad-libbed, I read.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. So he would get along really well with your kids.
I think so.
He's got the perfect demeanor for it.
They would have a blast.
Yeah.
They'd be instant friends too, I think.
It's funny because we're in a peaceful, quiet overhang. Mm-hmm. But this is not your life though. Because you've mentioned like noise and when is your peace and quiet? Is it truly when you work out?
Yep.
And when you sleep, or do you ever get any sleep in peace?
Sometimes I actually do get sleep in peace, but other times like this morning, I woke up to a child in my face, like just staring at me.
Okay. That's a little scary.
It is.
Kids are scary.
Yes, they are.
They say some weird things. If I were to ever make a horror movie, which someday I'm going to, I want a kid because they freak me out. You want to scare me? Hand me a baby. I get it.
Yeah.
That's. I'm running out of fears because you have to challenge yourself with those fears.
Yeah.
But that's definitely one of them, and you live that every day.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Here's your challenge. You can take the kids for like an entire week and see how you last.
Oh, no, there's no way. No, I'd rather like lay myself in a bed of ants and you can pour syrup all over me. I'll be buck naked and I'll do that for a week. Okay. Nothing against your kids. That's not a good thing for either of us.
Okay.
That's not a good
Fair
thing for
enough.
Society. Yeah, if you thought 2020 was bad, we're going to have a century of like rotten luck if something like that happens.
Okay.
The universe would probably rotate the opposite way.
You'd be like, nope.
Some people are just not meant to procreate. The cool thing is, at least I'm an idiot, but at least I'm smart enough to know I was one of those guys. I'm still a child anyway, so that kind of pays off.
So there you go. No more children.
All right, so I want to go back into like the race thing. A lot of it kind of goes with like fitness and your ability to be able to balance fitness and being a mom and being able to homeschool and still cooking. How were you able to train for the race? Or, and I kind of know the answer of like, did it help your fitness? But like, how were you able to balance that and still be able to go through a race, kind of that extreme?
Again, it was making the time to do it. And then also I actually had to wake up a little bit earlier to be able to fit in like the more strenuous workouts. And also my nutrition had to get on board too, because I'm really bad about just like grazing and not eating enough. So that was always like, okay, I got to make more time so I can make an actual breakfast instead of just eating like a protein bar or something like that. And I would try to prep out my meals. I'm always like, okay, Sunday, let's prep. And I was terrible at that. So it was more of like, okay, let me find time to actually cook myself something.
Yeah.
And make the time to do that as well. And at the time that I was actually training for the race, my kids were in school. So I had like about 2 hours of like me with the baby at the time. So I had a little bit of time, but it really wasn't, because I was at home during that time doing chores and dealing with the baby as well. So not actually teaching per se, but I was doing other stuff.
It's funny because I think when I first saw you, when you were following the YouTube channel and then you started posting video, it was a pistol roll, which is one of the reasons I started calling you Ninja, because Gabby was kind of like just rolling around in front of you, and you jumped over her like with such finesse, and I'm like, if I would have done that, I would have unfortunately stomped on her head like a coconut, and it was just. It probably made like most people cringe, but every mom got it.
Yep, I completely.
I laughed. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. And Gabby was just completely oblivious to it.
Yep.
But it's the only reason I address it is that's the first impression I got of like, here's a mom who's got all these kids and works within the chaos of that and is still able to maintain this ability to stay in such extreme shape that if you wanted to do a race right now, you could.
Yep.
You're actually in fitness shape to do any of the obstacle race. If they said, hey, let's do it tomorrow, you're good for it.
I'd be like, all right, let's do it.
And that's kind of the way that's kind of the way to live life. COVID's been a kind of a big stickler for that, like recently, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's made, I know that they've had more having to split their times up. Like, what is it? The waves have been like smaller groups going in every like 10 to 15 minutes. They've been sending out the groups, and you can't like linger around in the like social area for very long either, like he used to.
Yeah.
And I think
because being outdoors and wallowing around in mud and all that other stuff, that's not a big deal.
It's contagious. Like, and I don't think you have to wear a mask during the race, but you do have to post and pre-race. which
Because that's when you can actually like transmit it easier and quicker
Very
is when
much.
you're just standing there.
just standing there.
I
Yeah.
get it. That makes sense.
Yep.
I'm going to share one story with you because it kind of reminds me. I think people use. Obviously, I'm a believer of the virus. I know some people are not. I mean, I've had it supposedly. Whatever it was, I know it was something different than I've ever experienced. But so I don't deny COVID. But what I find interesting is how companies will use COVID to save money, and they blame COVID. And they're like, I'm thinking to myself, how dumb do they think we are? But I guess most people, if you think about it, there are a lot of people who just believe anything. All you have to do is mention COVID,
Yeah.
and it's okay. I don't know. Do you find that even in Florida, there's some of that?
I think so.
Yeah, not as much though.
Not as much.
Which is the
I don't
reason
think
why
so,
I'm
yeah.
here.
I don't think we're big on this whole COVID thing here. I think we're more lax than any other part of the nation.
And to be fair, I think a lot of times I'll see it when it's corporations. Like I'll see it in all the Marriott Bonvoys. So regardless of whether you're in Florida or San Diego, the rules still exist where you have to walk in with a mask.
Yeah.
You can walk through, and once you sit down, apparently COVID's not a big a deal in restaurants. Once you sit down, you can take it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so I made a decision. I was recently in San Diego, and because of all the snow that was in Texas, my flight got canceled because there was like a layover in Houston. So I had to like change airlines that I've been using, United. And United, just to give you kind of a layout, United, they serve everything. Whatever you want, they still serve it. Everyone still wears masks, but there was never like this holdup. I had to take Southwest to get to Florida because they would go into Denver, and I mean it's a moot point. But to make a long story short, I had to use an airline that I purposely stopped using because of how they've handled COVID and how they had to, they started to respond to everything. And the lady, this was a 4-hour flight, and she kept, oh, well, we'd love to come by again and serve again, but because of COVID, we can't serve a second time. Those are the rules. I'm thinking to myself, whose rules? Those are Southwest mandates that they do for their own company so they can save money. And all they do is serve a cup of water, which it's an exposed cup of water, so I'm assuming that's safe.
Yeah.
And I guess if you get more than one pretzel bag, it becomes a lot more dangerous with COVID. I get it. Like I can understand some of it, but then when you're using it specifically to make money, that's when I want to slap some of these corporations.
I didn't think that, saying COVID would like save you money. Anyway.
Southwest is not to bash a company that I've used a lot, and I still use them, but they're killing it, actually.
Really?
If you look at their company, they have opened up in 3 different cities that they never used to be. Miami was one of them. They opened another one, I think, in Texas. I know in Chicago they used to be just Midway. Now they're Midway and O'Hare. Oh. So they have been thriving through this. To be honest, I don't think they're going to go back to anything but just serving water and giving you like, I don't know, pretzels they find on the floor.
Sounds delicious.
That was my little rant, because that's just on the top of my head when we're talking COVID, and of course in the race, they're using that as a reason. But these are fit people that, not that you can't get sick from that, but if you're outside rolling around in mud, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, mud is supposed to be good for you anyway. It's supposed to, increase your happy stuff.
See, that's why it's good for me. I roll around in the mud once a week.
Yeah.
It's good for the complexion.
It's very good for you. That's why they say you should go and plant plants and things like that for the elderly.
Oh.
It makes them happy playing with the dirt.
Interesting. Yeah. I'll keep that in mind in a few years for myself. I'll just keep playing in the dirt. Listen, I know you're busy. I know there's a million things going on. A couple other things I want to talk about briefly, but first of all, if I don't get a chance, I just want to thank you for letting me come to your beautiful cabin.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Kind of donating a time that I know and I've learned very quickly that's extremely valuable. You run a life that is it really is impressive on how you can. I know I keep saying this and it's redundant, but I have to say it again just because it is that like impressive to me, where you can stay in shape, you can still run that things can kind of cycle the way they do, like almost like a symphony. And you're homeschooling and it's multiple personalities. And then, of course, I jump in and say, hey, you want to do a podcast? So, yeah, I appreciate that.
It's fun. I mean, it gives me something. It's like, I'm always focused on the kids, so this gives me some time away.
We'll have to do it again. I'm closer these days. Florida is slowly coming back. I haven't bought here yet, but eventually I will. And most of my life is basically here now. So, I mean, even my mailing address is finally in Florida. It just hasn't moved as fast as I wanted.
Well, Florida's a great place.
Yeah, it's my favorite state.
I might be biased because I'm from here, so,
I'm biased because it's my favorite state, and it's the one of the few states that pretty much act normal. Everything's open.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
So people should come here.
Yeah,
come visit.
Texas is like, I was in Austin, and they're all open too.
Yeah.
This was before all the snow, though.
Oh yeah.
And see that like the stock of, if anybody was convincing me to go to Texas, the stock dropped precipitously.
Because the snow?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted snow, I could just stay in Chicago and get
that's
buried in
true.
snow there.
That's true. I would like to see some snow. I've been having too much heat.
Yeah.
I'm complaining. Like I'm actually cold right now because the temperatures have dropped, but it's only 60.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
now I'm cold and it's 60.
This feels good to me. I'll take this any day of the week. This is even warmer than when I was in San Diego. San Diego was like 50s, low 60s.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like this would have been the warmer weather in San Diego.
Nice.
All right, so Scott and I are swimming with the sharks.
That's right.
We made that commitment over a podcast so that we were basically we have to do it now, otherwise we look like complete buffoons.
Yeah.
And I heard if we don't do it, small puppies will die.
Okay.
So we don't want
now
that
you have
either.
to do that.
It could be a bad thing.
Yeah.
My challenge to you is, if you got to pick on a next race, what would it be?
On a next race?
Yeah.
Like when?
When would you do it?
November.
November?
November.
But you said you can do it earlier.
I could. I just don't know where I would do it earlier because the next one is in March, but I can't do it because I'm having surgery on my mouth.
Oh. Yeah, that would...
That would make it a little bit difficult.
No thanks. All right, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
All right, well, a relentless treat to you for you basically donating all this and doing the podcast is Relentless is going to sponsor your next race. And I can't wait for you to do it, because then we'll podcast again, and I want to talk about your training and then how you crushed it and how you're still the ninja, but now on another level, if that's even possible.
Beast ninja.
Yeah. So when we get off this podcast, something that Scott and I should have done. He wasn't with me, so we still have to set up the date. We actually didn't commit to a date yet.
Yeah.
We're going to, though. This is why I'm bringing it up for a second time. But as soon as we get off, I want us to set up it. If you can sign up, let's do it.
Pressure's on now.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
See? It's
Nice.
the best way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's true, though. The best way to stay in shape is to have something to train for.
Exactly.
And you still seem to... You train like you're training for something.
Yep.
So that's something that an athlete does, which is why you are.
Yeah, and it's always good to have a goal to push for. And once you reach it, don't stop.
Yeah.
That's like one of my biggest things. Like once you reach that goal, okay, what's the next level? Go for it.
It's a good point, because usually when people are done, they're like, okay, I did it. Let's,
And then that's
let's
it.
rest.
And I'm like, I loved getting to that level. Okay, I know I can do it. What's the next one? Let's see if I can
Perfect.
do it.
All right. I can't wait. Did you want to say anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Ninja Nina. You'll see her on some of the live workouts, but one last thing. On the cooking part of it, because you've done some cooking videos, and cooking's an impressive art form, in my opinion. You've done some like really interesting things. How do you keep it interesting? When I say interesting, like the sweet potato brownies, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's a lot of research. Because I'm originally a culinary student. I had actually started with nutrition, but there was too much science involved in nutrition.
Yeah.
And I switched to eventually culinary. And ironically enough, my specialty is baking. And
Which
as
is
I had
harder.
heard Scott say that there's science, it's like scientific with baking. And I'm like, Yep, I ended up basically going around, like trying to run away from the science to actually come back to it. And you take a recipe and just start switching out different ingredients to try to make it healthier. And some of them work and some of them just completely flop.
Yeah, well.
So it's fun.
All right. I'm going to have to try some of those sweet potato brownies.
Yeah, you're going to have to take some.
Right. I was just curious because that's always interesting. And it takes a lot of effort and time than to just do takeout and order things after a long day. And that's not something you do.
No.
All right. Well, I'm treating everyone to pizza.
Yeah. Pizza. I do love
See, that's
pizza.
my answer.
It's easy.
Yeah, it's easy and I can't cook, so.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I cook with my wallet.
That works too.
Yeah, I guess if you can't cook, you do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is.
Nina, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That's Ninja Nina. What's the Instagram again?
Castile 2013.
Castile 2013, and you're still posting the fitness things.
I haven't in a while, but if you go scroll through my account, you'll find all that stuff on there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that group, that homeschool group that you're using,
Gather Round.
So you can look that up. I know there's people who use other stuff too, but that's a big help.
Yep.
Of people who are going into that or thinking about homeschooling. Would you ever go back?
Back to school?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Traditional. Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like that's where it's going, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of homeschoolers now. That homeschool community is growing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be our next generation coming in as these homeschooled kids, and I think they're going to be more aware of what's going on.
More aware is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Like everyone's talking about education, being aware of things, that's part of education, as opposed to just regurgitating a group thought that has been a curriculum by the government. Not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but come on.
It is true. So, yeah, I really think that our kids are going to be, I think, better educated and more aware of what's going on. And I think we should, as homeschool moms, continue to teach them the right way of how this nation was brought up and how the government should be run, how it was originally founded. Yeah,
and challenging thoughts.
Yep.
Ideas, having your own ideas. That's traditionally what liberal arts was all about.
Yep.
Now it's here's a stringent curriculum that you have to talk about, that you have to teach, regardless of what's out there.
Exactly, and you have to spit it back out and do as you've been told, and not all of it's all the way it should be.
Yeah. You mean we can't trust everything the government tells us?
I mean, is everything on the internet true?
Of course.
Of course.
I read it.
Yeah.
If I read it, it happened.
Exactly.
If the reporter told me on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, it's got to be true.
Yeah. Then I guess it's true.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. I wanted to leave one little zinger for people who actually get upset with me on things like that. But if you're getting upset with Nina, you're going to have to tangle with a lot of honey badgers because she's got no enemies in our community. So be careful with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I can have enemies.
When you're tough, I guess you can handle your own.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for listening. Always remember, eat healthy, train hard. Most especially, have fun. And this is Ninja Nina. Feel free to leave any comments or questions in regards to that. I'd love to have you back on someday.
Sounds good to me.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Nina.
Thank you.